I started making a number of videos on reloading for the 43 Mauser or the 11.15 by 60 rim cartridge. I've been reloading quite a long time, but I'm new to these black powder cartridges and these older guns. I've never really reloaded for them because the availability of the components to make it easier in the past was non-existent. So in my other videos I went over to different things, and I kind of ran into a problem, and that's why I kind of stopped making the videos. And at this point we were supposed to go through the sizing, priming, expanding the neck. I believe anybody who's interested in it should know the basic reloading skills needed to do this. It's all standard for all cartridges. And today I'm going to cover where I am with this and my experience with it, and we're going to load a smokeless round. What I did is when I first got these, I had some black powder. And so I loaded the first series of cartridges I loaded were a black powder round. It's the first time I ever loaded a black powder round and tried it out. Now, what happened with that is just go through and reload it. And when I fired them, I loaded 70 grains of 2F behind the Lyman bullet mold, the cast bullet. Lyman cast bullet for that caliber. I'll try to zoom in on it. And that's what it looks like. Now the first batch I cast it out of a soft lead, almost a pure lead, and I casted another batch like these here out of wheel weights, which is a harder bullet, and you also, with a harder alloy, you get a little bit bigger diameter on the bullet that drops out of the mold. The difference is about 1 or 2 thousandths. They all went off all right. The accuracy was kind of, I didn't really keep track, wasn't that good. I didn't really work on it. I just wanted to test the guns, make sure the guns were working all right. And then when I resized the brass to do the next rounds, I did was a smokeless load. And when I resized the brass, they resized very easily and everything went fine. And the smokeless load, again, I had the wheel weight bullets, and the only load data I have for this cartridge came with the Lee dies. And I decided to use IMR 4198 powder. And here it says to go 27.9 is the start, 31 grains is the max. You can also go and kind of look at a similar bullet weight in reloading manuals for 4570 trapdoor. Some reloading manuals will have 3 separate sections for the 4570, and the trapdoor section has all light loads for that old antique gun. And you can kind of compare the difference. And there was a bullet weight in there similar and close to this, which they had a start load of 23 grains of IMR 4198. So I went loading 5 cartridges, starting at 23 grains and gradually working up to, I think I got up to 29 or 30. Where 31 is the max on this, and I think 32 is the max in the loading manual for the 4570. So always start on the low end, way low end. Even if, because like them 23 grain loads just popped, and I don't even think the bullet was getting out there, any accuracy. But to know that the gun's 120 some years old. To know the gun is not malfunctioning, that the chamber isn't screwed up, that there's some kind of flaw or defect that you didn't catch, other than taking a max load right off the bat and finding out the hard way. And what happened is I've noticed that the light load sized up real nice, and then when I got up to the 29, 30 grain loads, I had a hard time resizing them. So now I got left. I really didn't want to work the brass hard because the brass is expensive, and I don't know if it would split or crack. So what a lot of people do is it's called fire forming with the old guns. Now you don't know if the chamber's a little bit out of spec. It could be out of the specification over the years from wear. 100,000, thousands, 2,000s, maybe 5, which no harm done. But it might not be in pristine, perfect condition. You don't know that. And I found that the stiffer loads, the brass was real hard to resize. It was really stretched out. So what some people do is they will fire in these old guns one time with new brass, and they really won't resize the brass. And that is, less wear and tear in that. And all you'd have to do maybe is like, I'd run them up there and get the mouth of the case back to where, it's round again. And just basically get it all trued up again to where you can go. And then what you do, see with a black powder load, you're putting enough black powder in this case where you're filling it up, and then the bullet will rest on a cardboard wad, and actually you can seat it a little and then crimp it with a black powder load. I'm going to do the same thing here with this using a smokeless load. And what I did is I got it to where the bullets get a good little friction fit on there. And hopefully I can seat this and crimp it, and it'll stay in place. Because the problem is, the powder on this load will only come up to about here in the cartridge. And then if that bullet comes loose in handling, it'll just drop right down in there. And So what I want to try to do is, without resizing them, what I did is manually knocked out the primers. I reprimed the cases. And so I got them primed. I didn't resize them. They're the length. I measured them with the calipers. They're still the length. They might have to be trimmed after this firing. And I'm going to try to get a smokeless load in there and crimp the bullet in and see how it goes. And what I found is they have the start grain or the start load here of 27.9 grains. I found that my rifle liked the 28 grain load, which is a tenth of a grain off, was the most accurate out of the whole string of shots that I fired. So what I'm going to do is, I tested the bullet, made sure there's a little friction there. I got my 28 grains of powder I'm going to put in there. Now, I never really did this before, but what I do is take a little 5/16 square piece of nylon filler or whatever, and I just kind of put that down over the powder charge. Some people do this, some people don't. I've loaded a lot of pistol cartridges that were small, like for the 38 special. You use bullseye, it only takes up a very small amount of the case. I've never used this before, this method, but I do it now. You just, I don't know if you can see it. Just get it down there so it holds the powder in place. And now, I'm not going to show it to you because you should know. I'm just going to run it up the seating die and hopefully put a little light crimp on this, and we'll be ready to go. Well, as you can see, that didn't work out too well. It didn't crimp it. The bullet must have fell past and dropped in before it got up to crimp. So we got a bit of a problem there with this. We may have to go with black powder loads, and not smokeless. See, with the black powder load, you'd be resting on the powder. Yeah, see it? When you get it down in there, it just drops in. Let me see if I can find it. So it looks like I may have to go to a black powder, and I'll try that one in another video. Okay. From what I gathered, there is no solution to that problem. If you're going to load these with smokeless powder and not have the bullet resting on the powder charge itself, you have to at least neck size or fully resize the cartridge. I had 20 of them that I did resize. So I got 20 cartridges loaded with the smokeless load. And so now, with the other ones where the bullets slip in there, I'm going to have to load them with black powder. So we're going to go try that. And that's going to be the next video, is I'm going to make a load for this gun using the black powder, and basically the way I come about approaching that. Any questions about reloading the smokeless powder, send me an email and I'll try to answer them, or make another video on a fine point about this if you have a question. Okay, thanks.